Welcome back to the Grosse Reich, the Greater Reich. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11. Okay, now, one thing I'm sort of get used to playing with one version of the game, new version comes out. These are back. Motor torpedo boats. Revolverheld, if you're watching, we need better names for these than first MTB, second MTB, because you're the guy for the good German names. And I always want, don't know if we'll run out, but more of the naval bombers and seaplanes. Ran out last time, so last series, so if put in more of those would be nice, but we need more. We need motor torpedo boat, better naming conventions, and I don't like going in and trying to do all of it in detail. Just want a decent immersion name. But part of the reason I'm spamming so many of these now, my understanding, didn't get official word, but my understanding is the reason those were taken out of usage, or out of the ability to build them, not usage, and you got them via events. I presume that giving the fishing fleet event will happen to get us some sort of transport once the war starts, and if it doesn't, there's a bug, because we're not allowed to build basic ships, not the liners. But where is it? I probably zipped past it without. Yeah, like regional naval power here. They had a like a total of 50 ships here, and as you go get higher levels, you can move this, and so you could spam in a lot of cheap ships. Like you see here that we currently have 37, need at least 50. But notice what they have done is added at some point text to that level. And so you need to spend the time, energy, and effort of bringing these texts up. And some of the stuff will have dates on them and things that you need to get, like if you need to get carrier task force or something like that, that really sort of pushes it a bit harder to sort of, I don't know if cheat's the right term, but sort of spam your way to it, because I don't think they have the ability, engine limitations, to like say you got to have 5 carriers. They can check for ship numbers, but not numbers of particular types of ships. Now these guys here are pretty limited in their usefulness. They are no, you hit them with a real fleet, they're just going to get torn apart. Don't worry, the clock is moving. We're going ahead here, but we need to go ahead a little faster. And see that pops up. So they'll get torn apart with a real opponent, but they are useful. I like to use them, in coastal waters, because one, they have a limitation. But say hunting British submarines that will come in here to this region and disrupt your Norway convoys. So that they're good for that. And they're not that great at sub hunters, but they could possibly spot them, and then if you have some naval air and other stuff that will jump on them and in conjunction with each other really destroy them. And they're also cheap to build. We can look here and see that, well, let's just go down to 1. They're but they're 71 days, 3.35. Where if you go to the motor torpedo boat, which I'm also going to build some, those are a little cheaper, but those are 263 days. So, 71 to 263 days. and a destroyer is almost a year, and it's even more. But notice this number here. This will reduce your increase practicals, reduce the cost, or the time it takes, the cost and time it takes to, well, at least the cost to build. The more you build of this by a 1.5, where these will do it by a 0.1. So basically just a even less than a 10% of the other ones, and these guys half of that. So, but they will build up your practicals and increase that. So that is part of the reason why I'm building a bunch of these to go fast through the production, and then we'll step up to some of these and maybe some of these, and we also have a few destroyers here, because destroyer and less are all the light boat things. So that's sort of what I'm wanting to do here, is build some Navy. Submarine anti-aircraft. Now, the Germans tried to do anti-aircraft on submarines, and I mean, many nations had anti-aircraft guns on submarines, whether simple 30 caliber machine guns that you would, take up on deck and mount to a rail up there, to a proper anti-aircraft gun mounted on deck. That you normally want to put, something down the barrel to keep the water from getting in, but then that creates pressure, and that's problems, and it's, salt water and high performance steel is something you have to sort of maintain with, of course. But the Germans, I remember seeing some film footage of a German submarine with a Fock-Verlane, the quad 20mm gun, and they wanted to try to actually stay on the surface and battle it out with your attacking aircraft. And it shows some sort of fighter type aircraft coming in at them and just chewing the submarine apart. They're just basically, you're a losing battle if you try to stay on the surface. So this obviously helps air defense, meaning air defense just means you take less damage, and it gives up some air attack. Well, whatever. So it's useful in game terms, but really historically, it just get under the water as fast as possible. That's your only defense. All it takes is a small punctures to your submarine hull for it not to work. Where a ship, you puncture the holes in the ship, you plug them, no problem, because they're not under significant pressure once you go deeper. They're depending on how deep on the water line and other things there is pressure, but it's nothing like a submarine. Just quite honestly, nothing like a submarine's pressure. And I was asked about these, why I'm not doing infantry support tank. Well, I don't plan on building any infantry support tanks, and I don't think we're given any via events, because Germany's infantry support tank role vehicle is the assault gun. Now here, this is not a progression down through here, and same as this is actually not so much of a progression. The heavy armor brigade is. To get assault guns, if you look at these arrows here, assault guns will give you, I don't know why the arrow goes this way, because light armor is not based on infantry support tanks. It's based on, from this arrow here, more on gasoline engines and traction suspensions, and some of this stuff here to allow it to go up. And so basically what you need to do is get medium tanks to a certain level here. And let's see, I know it can be a bit hard to decipher. You need gasoline engines or diesel engines. It doesn't, you just have to progress through one of those. You don't have to do both of those, just sort of understand that. And then you need to look at the top. Assault guns needs to be assault guns need to be lower than 1 for the first one to work, the top. And the following must be true, so either gasoline or diesel engines, and then you need to have medium armor designs, at least 3, as well as tracks, which we already have. That's why that one's green. And the short barrel HE tank guns, that's green. We have it. And if you notice, you can go down to the bottom, or 2 up from the bottom or something. You see high velocity anti-tank gun at least 2, or then above at least 1, as well as HE barrels at least. So it's much more dependent upon these gun elements and these, and then stepping up here. So we need to go one more level of this. So obviously it's still grayed out, which to get level 3 here, 1, 2, 3, we need, I guess, small caliber tank cannon NGs at least, and then it's, oh, it wraps around 3 down. You can sort of see there to 3. So we need to get that to 3 small caliber here. So we need to fairly soon now, I guess. Right now, we're pushing ahead on that, because whether we get this before, because we're in July, don't know the exact date. We could look, but whether we get that earlier or not, the earlier into 1939 or possibly slightly before, we can get starting on medium armored designs. Once we get the next level of medium armored designs, then we can do assault guns. So it's much these. So don't worry about these. So if you decide I'm, not going to have any amphibious armor, or I'm not going to do heavy assault guns, you can just leave it alone. And that's what I'm doing with these. I think we actually stole that from the British, but I'm not sure. Not sure, but Germany didn't do those, or they had different they had the assault guns in that role. We would give them money for rare materials. How much are we bringing in money? Okay, I want to sort of kind of get good relations with the Soviets to be able to trade with them. And my friend Django was asking about the Swedish steel trade situation to get the modifier. The modifier comes with an event that will happen when we get good enough relations with Sweden. And it's in 1938, and since he was asking me about this just a few minutes before starting this episode, so we can look here, and current relations is 20, which isn't good enough really to get your, because you need relations 50 or better. So we have several options here. We can try to do a trade agreement that will help our relations. Sweden needs supplies. They have some money, but they don't like us enough to even buy supplies. So what we want to do here is influence nation. I do want that Swedish steel thing. And thank you, Django, for reminding me about this. Now that will eat into that. So what we're going to do here is keep you locked down. We're going to take I'm going to want to keep just that sort of minimum amount for spies, and we're going to up this. Not that much. We're going to slowly lower this down for a while. We can always shift more over to it. There we go. Now I'm undoing this to hopefully, if we get more leadership, instead of trying to spread it around, which is what I think it does if these are all locked, it'll just, partial out one quarter. I think. I haven't tested that in detail, but that's my perception of it, at least, is that if we get more additional leadership coming in from effects or, things that affect leadership here, go away, negative effects or whatever, it'll be added to officers gain is what I want to have happen right now, because we are now back on the sort of positive up. And cruiser damage control systems, which I think are here in red, so we're going to take that out. I was also talking to Django a little bit. He's a long-time Hearts of Iron 2 player. And you have to do invasions on beaches in Hearts of Iron 2, he informs me. I didn't know that. where here you can invade basically any coastal province. Like I say, basically this one has an infrastructure of 1, you need 2, so it needs an infrastructure level to do so. Well, I don't specifically know this coast in detail by any means, but I know parts of some of this. I would say it would be uninvadable from, say, a division-size formation sometime in the 1940s. But the question comes down to is, are any of these provinces, coastal provinces, really, and through the entire length of the coast? So that's from here all the way over to here. Now this one has a little bit of coast here and a little bit of coast there, or, this one has, this long coast. Is this really uninvadable? Now, part of the reason I think for the Hearts of Iron 2 thing is that they made sort of big conglomeration stacks of units that, you move a big unit around, and so you just plunk it here, and it sort of represents defending greater things. So, but knowing some of the coastlines like I do, and particularly some of them here in California, more or less, I've driven the roads of the coast, of the complete coast of California, Pacific Coast Highway, basically. Now there's one section that you can only go along in trains, somewhere around here or something, but the road wise, and there's definitely coastline here that I would say is highly impractical of even a trying to even to do a D-Day with mobile harbors and all that stuff, invasion. But is it really this is Carmel. No, there's nice beaches in Carmel, and parts of it. Now, maybe parts of it's really rough. What I thought of is I would make a difficulty, not a fortification thing, but I would make a difficulty level in coasts, and that would sort of represent how much of the coast in the province is considered invadable. I don't know quite how that would work out in battle tactic wise, but sort of represent the idea if there's, say, in this section here, there's only 2 suitable beaches, so all you have to do is concentrate your forces in 2, say, locations, and you're fine. Or is all of this coast open to invasion? That sort of affects how you're fighting and defending, a kind of thing. So I would add that into a game I was designing, if I could. So each province would have a rating. I don't know, right offhand, a 1 to a 5 difficulty, and 1 being easiest, 5 being most difficult for coastal invasions. And that would be what I would do. And yeah, it might sort of, and you may be able to sort of represent it with coastal forts, which are different than land forts, but I don't know. Okay, armor unit training advance. And just for immersion's sake, you could have it the same sort of modifier that coastal forts do, but just have it as a different slot and with a different symbol. You don't have no on map symbol, just have, when you click on the province, just have, difficulty rating 1, which may be equal to coastal fort 1 or something like that. Now, of course, you could add coastal forts to it, which would make it even more and more difficult. Just a thought. Just a concept. Nobody's going to do anything about it, but thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, armor unit training advance. Great. We like that. And armor unit command and control, I guess, also advance, which we're going to stop that because we're not doing those in 39. We got other things we're going to push ahead in 39 if we're going to do 39 technologies, in which I guess we are basically now down to doing. So since we are, let's come and look at some of the structural good ones here. Yes, we'll do that. And the SSHQs. And even though that is 39, we're going to step to somewhere else. And yeah, let's start doing those. Okay, which we still have a positive. Okay, more SSHQs, an army, and 2 corps. And so, maybe something. Oh, that was. We also took off the other. Training thing for armor as well. So, there we go. And yes, I'm not the best person to play the diplomacy or the intelligence game, but we do need to be doing this. The Soviets are trying to improve relations. Where's Sweden on this map? Sweden, Sweden, Sweden. Should be on top of whatever thing since I'm clicked on. Well, yeah. No, that's no, over here. Lost in the forest. Now it's moving towards us a bit better. Hopefully we'll improve our relations. Okay, high density alloys has advanced. Good. And that's grayed out. Fine. And infantry unit combined arms has advanced. That's also good. And we want to stop that. Mobile unit training. So that will allow us to come over here and look for I'm going to avoid this for right now because of this issue here. We will wait till 39 to do that. It'll go faster then. But we can do radar now. Do our radar. Oh well, we have other ones too, of course. I have a little sort of brush thingy here. I've noticed my optical mouse sometimes gets lint or something in it. No, maybe that's not the main issue here. Okay, long since worn off the little pad things they're supposed to glide on. Okay, 39 secret, no, yeah, we'll do engineer training. And we have a little more. Oh, we can do these. We want to do these. Most assuredly. Armor piercing capped. There we go. Okay, nice motorized infantry division. They're good. Well, you've been agitating for a command. Now you have commando and panzer leader, but I think we'll give you that for now. It is a motorized unit. Okay, recon coordination. Yeah, we'll take these off. I guess we also got communication too. Well, yeah, we just got that as well. This doesn't show. Officer leadership -5. Click to start. I want to look into the math of that a little bit more. Probably a good idea. And well, so we're going to take advantage of the bonuses that should be coming. Well, got that, got these, good. Which means we want us to do some of these guys. There we go. There we go, sorry about that. Okay, artillery unit, advance. Good, training. It's gonna flood a bunch of other things I'm seeing here. Okay, well, but we're gonna do that. Let's just continue to check out 1939 technologies. Oh, let's do this. This is our main one. I think it'll affect some other stuff there. So. And okay. Yeah, we'll deploy these guys. Just so that I get them out of... Oh, and mixed support units could use revolverheld if you're watching. Could use better Germanic titles. Like I said before, I'm going to use these. I haven't determined exactly which ones, but attach these guys to some of these headquarters. I looked at the speed, and they're fairly quick. Max speed 4.7, and then we can go here. And see, it's still 4.7, so that's not changing. Okay, and that's going now into this other terrain modifier. A little faster, so they're pretty fast. The mixed support. I think they'll do good to add to fighting HQs. Okay, and where is the... no, Kriegsmarine needs to get better, so... Which already made these guys cheaper. Well, since we're here, we could do this. I've also put my first Panzer division. Now I'm planning on using one of the headquarters units that's currently part of probably this school, one of these lair stabs, training stabs. Training HQs. Throw one of those in. Okay, artillery unit, combined arms. And tank destroyers have advanced. Research. Tank destroyer upgrade. Okay, we'll stop this. Switch this to armored cars, start research. And then down, what I think here, yes, tank destroyer upgrade. That'll go fast as well. Yes, we're going to get this down real fast. Here. And we have a, Well, let's go with a additional SSHQ. There, this version here is just the HP, doesn't have any of the extra police units, but still, we can use that. And come on, do something around here. Send them over here to press partisans or revolt risk. Okay, though at some point we will be getting more SA units. Mobile unit combined arms. Good. Now, yeah, mobile unit combined arms. Move this over to armored combined arms. Just feel like doing that one. And fighter ground control, I see. Okay. Fighter ground control. And we'll let that continue because we're going to do some radar here soon. Okay, more infantry divisions motorized, so we're going to stick these guys down in here. Okay, yeah, no, not you. I don't know why it's going with Forrester as its like pick, because he's a bad general. The right rank, yes, and I don't know if it's his traits, but none of those are, well, that's a ground trait, I guess, but still, I don't know what the hell. He's going to become the AI's favorite all the time. And yes, I know somebody has suggested that why don't I just get rid of holding down Shift key, just so you know how I'm doing this. I'm going to select those two and then hit R. I'm going to add place as a battle commander for this thing. Now it gave us this automatically. We're going to no leader there, and we're going to come here, and we're going to give him von Kleist as our leader for panzers. Now we also should have coming up some armored support regiments, and I'm going to give one of those to that HQ as well to give it some more fighting power. That should be pretty good. We'll see how well that works as a combat type unit. That's sort of what I found. And you know, sometimes, and especially getting ready for the Russian invasion and some of the earlier stuff, earlier games, before I was making any YouTube videos, I learned that I could come and invade here and come in here and move around, and they didn't have those you know, just simple truck units which move super fast just to clean up provinces. They didn't have those yet, but they had, you know, whether it was like armored cars or something, several unit types that were pretty damn fast then, and I would make some really light units to try to land and just try to, as fast as possible, swarm up land in the empty zones, and then, you know, retreat from any real combat, because, you know, they would be, you know, you could attach, you know, like an armored car unit, say, or something, and or a motorcycle unit, you could attach them to some other units and they'd be useful, but as individual units they sucked. And I actually sort of built some other units without them, eventually putting them back together, but as rapid land grabbing units. Now, with that in mind, and with the situation with the big front, sometimes it's sort of kind of good to build some really cheap units, excuse me, and just sort of minimalist stuff. And if you run, say, you know, like a minimalist fast armor unit that's just cheap, and you don't just build one, you build a bunch, 3, 6, whatever. If you were to, say, run into a well-organized, entrenched infantry unit, or you were to run into any sort of real enemy armor formation, you're going to do badly. But if it's a retreating, you know, a division that's retreating and it's super fast, and you just want to overrun it, get to the next province before it can retreat, or even if it retreats to the next province, but it just has almost zero organization and it's, you know, all chewed up, you know, it's at half strength, then it's still a good fighting unit. So some of those kinds of light divisions are useful, but you just sort of have to keep in mind that that's what they are, and where they can also be useful is stacked with other good units. So you just don't, you know, you just got to use them right, and sometimes they're good to sort of spam out cheap stuff. 4-engine airframe research is advanced, and that's right, we're doing those because they're going to help out some of these other technologies that will help out my seaplanes and whatnot. Flying boats, okay. Yeah, let's do armament research as well. We're doing that. We're Germany, we're moving ahead, we can afford it. If I was Italy or something, I'd just be ignoring it. So we're moving that SSHQ. We will be getting one last added unit of SA units. Okay, special treatment steel has advanced. What is oh, is it down here in ships? Yes. Okay. This may have been a better choice. I'm not sure, the cemented armor, but the big for me was, again, is and this is my understanding, a non-upgradable thing. You can, if you know, say this one does affect pocket battleships or something, and you get it something, you can send it back through the production line and get it added to it. But the big reason why I went for this was because it affects destroyers and light cruisers, where this doesn't. And so I figured more of my boats are going to be, or ships are going to be, lighter vessel types. So whether the stats are as good, let's also do this. Stats are as good or not, I don't know, but they'll improve more of the units that could be improved on. Luftwaffe and Ostmark Command. Okay, yes. So, now Goering has his... that's what we were waiting for. But, Major General Student. Should Major General Kurt Student be appointed commander of the air landing troops? This was a difficult picture to find. I'm sure I spent hours looking for it, searching around the web. And what is interesting about this is it is a, I believe, pre-war photo, if not early war photo, because it doesn't have his Knight's Cross that he earned as part of the invasion of the Netherlands, where he was wounded, possibly by friendly fire from the SS, though I don't, you know, and meaning, you know, mistaken stuff, not anything malicious. If that's true or not, but he was wounded in the landing. So that was that was hard finding it, an early photo without that Knight's Cross. So we can appoint him, cost us some supplies. That's building the air base, or not now. So we're going to do that. Oh, time for another Nacht der Amazonen. So we can have another party. In Munich, that's one of the major riverside hotels going through here, I understand. I know there's not, I guess, a major river through here, but I think it's a riverside hotel, and there's naked women in a hunting scene there. You can see there the Nymphenburg sort of palace in the background there, so big sort of Nazi party there. Grand Service Cross. This was awarded to Henry Ford. Now you remember, Henry Ford has the Ford plant. Up here, is it? Yeah, near Cologne or Frankfurt on Main or somewhere around here. He has a pretty major Ford plant, doing a lot of stuff there. But he's also wrote the book The International Jew, and here's a German copy of it, Der International Jude, which obviously has been translated to Germany and is a big seller. He was very anti-Jewish, so that is, as much as anything, the reason for this service cross. And you see he's very proud, though of course once the war starts, and I totally believe he was no fifth columnist collaborationist. He was very much a pro-American, so just a pro-American anti-Semite. No, I mean, that's you need to know who he was. It doesn't make him a good man because he's pro-American. It just means he's pro-American, and he just has his anti-Semitism, so it improves our relations by doing this. That's the German ambassador to America, I believe, giving it to him. See him wearing it there, and I don't think he ever wore it other than the presentation ceremony. He didn't like march around in it or anything. But build air bases in Ostmark 3, yes. Why is this guy at the bottom? I don't know. Get him into production, and we have the, there we go, attach these guys to Göring's Luftwaffe. Have we attached some of the smaller HQs, or the air defense units? Okay, heavy artillery brigades have advanced. Very good. I think they're grayed out. Yes, so that is good. And tank destroyers upgrade. That is this one. Good. We got that. So we've only got these two upgraded so far, just because we haven't researched assault guns yet, or we haven't got, I think it's armored engineers. You gotta have those basics. So still coming for those to be more fully effective. But with those two, it frees up more. So you guys know I'm an infrastructure player, so I don't want to go to 1940 techs just yet. Now it looks like as soon as we hit 39, I will be going for those, but we can do civil defense. That will be good. And since there were two new ones that came about, construction. Well, let's heavy AA guns. We'll do that. There's several good things there. Sauer & Sons pistol. That's the Model H that you sort of see there. I've zoomed in on that little thing there. Advertisement. But I thought this was an interesting advertisement. This comes from, I don't know what publication. I'm sure it was in more than one. but it's trying to sell their pistols. They're the 32 caliber pistols, we Americans would call it. Americans wouldn't design something. The caliber is designed by John Moses Browning. He would never design something that was 7.65 millimeters. It's just not the way John Browning works. He designed something that was 32 calibers, yes. Just it makes sense in the measuring thing. That's just converting the calibers to millimeters is why it's sort of an odd ball number as opposed to, 7.62. That's 30 caliber. Because 308 is 30 caliber. Just sort of messing with you a little bit there. But it was sort of interesting that you see the SA man, the SS man, the policeman, the RAD, and right now I'm not sure who the final guy, maybe NSKK or something. You can sort of tell that between those two is a sort of that old traditional style police helmet, soft helmet thingy, hat, helmet, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's not a metal thing. And so I sort of thought that was an interesting advertisement for Sauer pistols. Now I have a different Sauer pistol, slightly earlier model. Mine was owned by an SS officer. Fortunately, I don't have the paperwork on it. The guy who got it for me years ago now saw it at the gun show. It was there with a SS dagger. He had the capture and bring back papers from World War II with them, and so my friend who had an FFL at the time, you need those to buy these things in this state. Was there, and he knew I was generally interested in how much, and oh no, it's there as a pair, the dagger and that, and because I have been burned with fakes, and there's fake daggers and there's fake stuff, and there's really not fakes of these pistols. No one's ever made them. Now you might try to dress one up, but try to somehow make it super special. But and the guy wasn't and knew that I wasn't interested in buying the dagger and all this stuff. Well, walking around the gun show, comes back by, I don't know, half an hour later, the guy stops him. Do you still want the pistol? Because somebody wanted the dagger real bad, but wasn't able to go through the background checks, or didn't want to go through. I wasn't able to. I'm not saying he tried and failed. I'm just saying he wasn't going to put up with it, and he would pay the same price, I gather, for the pistol or for the dagger alone as well as for the combination, and he just wanted it. And unfortunately, the guy didn't even have a photocopy of the capture papers and the bring back papers of it. But it is marked inside. Now, of course, like I say, could be dressed up, meaning it's a real Sauer pistol from the time period. Different model than the Model H from this time period, but an earlier style. And it's factory nickeled. So it's really nice, factory nickeled. It's a private purchase, and that's sort of what these guys are trying to do. They're trying to get the policeman to buy their gun for military use, as well as trying to get these agencies to buy these guns instead of like the P-38 Walther, or other things. So it's you can look at it and you tell it's a real gun, of course, and it's a nice factory nickel job, but it's marked on the inside with a little SS thing that could be dressed up. I just know from the circumstances it isn't dressed up. Will somebody, when I decide to sell it someday, will somebody believe that and look at it? Well, somebody who sort of kind of knows would probably do, because they can sort of kind of tell. Other people might or might not be fooled. So whether I would get the premium price for having an SS owned pistol, especially without the paperwork, I don't know. But the price that I got it for was worth just the pistol, you know, the standard pistol, whether it was dressed up. I didn't pay extra because it was owned by, and I don't know who it was owned by because I didn't have the paperwork, but it was, there's some initials in there, but, or a little bit, but, which SS officer owned it. And it's not, I believe, very much an Allgemein type SS officer, not a Waffen, because it's a little sort of security pistol. So, and this sort of brings up what I know about is that Germany never, through its whole period, never had enough pistols, military or otherwise. Like every MG-34 gunner, you know, the guy who shoots the gun, is supposed to have a 9mm pistol with him. Often it was a Luger. Walther P38s are a bit more popular because they're double action, a bit more rugged, cheaper to build. They could never build enough of them. And so, you know, for every MG-34 out there that's in, you know, not ones mounted in vehicles or mounted on tanks, but all the ones that are mounted in, or not mounted, but for ground mobile, they need a pistol for that. And so there's just a huge amount of pistols needed for all of the police, and this is also part of why I did this. All these various security forces, for training and other things. So often DSA were moving around unarmed, but often by this later period, when they're sort of auxiliary police elements, they also had pistols too. So, and a lot of these are private purchase or required to be private purchase, and others are bulk purchases by different agencies. So they never had enough. So, and quite honestly, also the German police elements really thought 32 caliber was enough of a caliber of a pistol. I think it's a European thing. You just don't see a pistol. They see a pistol, I think, as more of an ornament than as a combat weapon. I remember being in Rome on an Easter Sunday and looking at the different Italian police officers. They were, and I can just sort of look and tell, there were three sort of levels of police officers, or police and security. Some looked like they were really good anti-terrorist guys, and just the way they moved, the way they carried their arms, the way their arms were dealt with. They were serious type gun users. Then there was sort of an intermediate status police officer. You know, those are carabinieri type, and they had carabinieri on their uniforms. Then there were some other sort of guys that had pistols that looked like they could maybe use them and had some training on them, but they were sort of basic police officers. Then there was this other guy that I saw there, and there were a few of them. They were directing traffic, literally directing traffic, and they had this, their guns, probably 32 calibers, guns of some sort, Berettas most likely, in holsters. And, you know, the belt goes around their waist, as you would imagine. And probably most of you have seen some American cop shows, you know, with the heavy basket weave holster and the big or belts and holsters and all that, handcuffs and all that, you know, sort of serious gear. Well, this guy, you know, belt around the holster, and then two little leather straps that connect to from the holster, or from the belt, that hang down to the holster, and there's like two little D-rings on the holster. And yeah, I'm seeing this from the other side of the street, but trust me, I'm noticing all this stuff. It's again what I do. Little D-rings on the holster. They're, you know, little ring shaped, sort of like these, that the little leather straps go through. This is all in white, and this holster's white, and it's a not quite a clamshell holster, I think. Yeah, maybe clamshell holster, meaning the entire gun is encased in leather. There's no part of the gun you can grab onto, but also there is a little buckle, you know, a belt buckle type thing that holds the flap down for the holster, the pistol. So the pistol's entirely in this clamshell holster, and there's a little buckle there. So I could, if I knew Italian, I could be at the other end of the block and say, and have a big knife and say, I'm going to kill you, and run that whole block up to him and stab him to death before he could ever get that pistol out of his holster. I'm serious. He could. I'm just sure that it. I don't even know if he would think of it. He'd probably just turn around and run as I started to run towards him with a knife, like just a kitchen knife. So this is not something like some terrorist attack. This could be just, mad crazed man or woman who's on drugs or whatever, who's picked up a kitchen knife and sees somebody, sees a traffic cop, and in his mad mind, decides to attack him, could run at this guy, and yes, he could run away, but police officers are armed for a reason. Because if it's not running after the police officer, he could run at somebody else and start stabbing them. And a police officer is supposed to be able to get his gun out. But this guy, so he has this gun, could not literally get this gun out in time. And don't even try to tell me this guy's trained for years to unbuckle that holster and get that out in 5 seconds or less, or whatever it is. And I'm saying it's going to take more than 5 seconds to get that out, especially if he's saying, oh shit, there's a guy with a knife coming at me. His adrenaline's going to be going. Trust me, in a real world situation, not a training situation, in a real world situation, he ain't ever going to get that gun out in time. And so he has this holster, this white holster on this white belt, looking at, and it sort of hung at a very jaunty sort of angle, the way the holster sort of hung against his leg and wasn't straight down on his leg. It's sort of off at an angle, and sort of a jaunty little angle, and he looked snazzy in his uniform, and he was, well-dressed Italian, a Roman cop on Easter Sunday directing traffic out in front of the Vatican. And so he was looking his best, and I just, what the hell? Why the hell do you have a gun? Because in America, mostly they're what we call meter maids, and they're mostly women, not always. I mean, there's men too, and they drive sometimes around on like three-wheeled motorcycles or in little sort of souped-up golf cart kind of things, and check parking meters and give out tickets. And they're law enforcement. They're police. They have a police badge. I don't know if they have all full arrest powers, but trust me, if I was beating somebody over the head with beating somebody over the head with a baseball bat, they wouldn't do anything about it other than get on their little radio and call the real police. But they're police. They issue tickets, but they carry no guns. Now they may have like a pepper spray or something just in case they're attacked. But I don't even think they don't even carry like handcuffs. They don't make the pretense of being a person that's going to go out and arrest people. They're ticket personnel. They go through training. I'm sure they've gone through some sort of minimal self-defense training. And the world that we live in, just because someone may get irate at them for giving a ticket and start threatening them, they may have like pepper spray. And of course, civilians can carry pepper spray, and all you have to do is feel threatened. If you truly just feel threatened by somebody, you can pepper spray somebody. So somebody's, so you may have to explain yourself in court, and sometimes you'll see people in riot situation, protesters and whatever, or attacking, the Antifa people are attacking the fascists, whether they're fascists or just pro-Trump people or whatever they may be, I don't know, using pepper spray in an offensive, just in an aggressive way. But, so if you're a man or a woman and somebody's coming up to you and sort of hassling you and you feel threatened, they don't have to like physically attack you. You just have to feel threatened. You can use pepper spray. Now, whether it ever gets to the court or the police officer, they may want to explain yourself to them. And if they go, that's a BS situation, if they just don't believe it, they'll put you in jail for using pepper spray, assaulting somebody illegally. But if they believe you that you felt threatened, you can pepper spray them. So it's just your average person. And in my lifetime I've often had pepper spray on me as well. So it's not just like for women or whatever. But these meter maid or traffic, and so the meter maids can also, their main job is revenue generation, of course, is to make the city money for giving out tickets. But they could also help with traffic direction or other sorts of things. Simple stuff like that. Like especially if there's like a crash and the police or the fire department or the emergency are helping out with the, dealing with the stuff, and they just sort of go up and sort of block the traffic and try to direct the traffic around or something. So they have other sort of, minor policing functions. So they don't have, guns that are not ready to be practically used. But I see this in Europe, that it's some sort of, I have the ability to use deadly force or whatever, and so they make these little guns that are in 32 caliber. Now, yes, John Moses Browning did design 32 caliber to kill people, and yes, it kills people. Generally speaking, though, if the guy's 20 feet away from you and you shoot 4 or 5 32 caliber pistol bullets into him, he might decide to walk over and to stab you to death. Though he might die. If you hit him in the heart, you hit him somewhere very vital. 32 caliber is a will die eventually bullet. When you can make the same gun in 380 in most cases. 380 is better. Maybe not a whole lot better, but a little better. So I don't know why. I've got a Walther PPK, late war manufacture. It's in 32 caliber. Why were they making Walther PPKs late war in 32 caliber instead of 380? The war is going on. You're needing pistols. Mine is late war. It's sort of has a lot of the machining marks still on it. So they were cranking these at Walther PPs, not PPKs, the PP, the standard police pistol. And so they're cranking them out for presumably military use, as well as military use marked. And why were they making them in 32s instead of 380s? You can do it in the same gun. It doesn't require a bigger gun like going up to a Luger or a Walther P38. Why? I don't know. I can't understand the why. I can understand a 32 caliber for if you need a smaller gun, but this is the same size of gun, or if you're giving them to women or somebody with weaker wrists, because 380 and a really lightweight gun can really be a problem. Now, so I don't know. And 25 caliber is still effective caliber to use, but it just depends on who and how you're using it. Okay, so this is just, I use this as sort of an interesting thing to do. More pistols for security forces, which will cost us some supplies, basically manufacturing, and get us some benefits there, so we'll do that. But it just ends up giving me a chance to talk about handguns and police use and why the Europeans do the things they do. Okay, so we have the Lish Brigade. That'll get upgraded later on. And we have another motorized infantry division. So, yes. Why didn't he get into the Lish Brigade? Maybe he thought that was beneath him? Okay, there we go. And Kubler, who would be better served doing a commando mountain unit or something. Okay, you can do that. What sort of speed will you can notice the speed up there, 540. We go to that 3 because of terrain. So let's see if we go here, still that. Okay, land power. So we're now a land power. We've gotten enough units. Oh, we don't actually go. Don't actually go there. Just looking at the speed. Enough units to qualify as land power, which increases our organization and our organization regain rate and our land organization. Good. Okay. Armored fighting vehicles, AA, anti-aircraft weapons, advance. Great. That's here. We will stop that, and we're going to come up to rocket artillery. Let's get rocket artillery rocketing. Fallschirmschule, Stendal Borst. Germany's parachute arm was officially inaugurated in 1936 with an order of the day calling for recruits for parachute training at the school located 90 kilometers, 60 miles west of Berlin. The school was activated several months after the first parachute unit was established in January 1936. Was open and active to reserved Luftwaffe personnel and SEAL officers and other ranks Luftwaffe. Required successfully complete 6 jumps in order to receive Luftwaffe parachute pads. Okay, don't know why it's happening now in 38 when that looks like a 36 thing. We've already had the student pointed, but we're also getting a unit there. Now, okay, any of these? Oh, none of these actually. Okay, so we should have been doing this. I guess, including mine, we've affected some of these things we can't research yet. Where is it? Airborne warfare research and some of the other ones. So I was waiting for those just to see if they gave any bonuses. They don't. They give to other things, other bonuses that we will get, and so it will be useful, but we'll just leave that there, and we'll see what this school provides us. Wow. Combined Arms Air Group. Okay, so that's... doesn't have a thing, and I think that is... one of these guys doesn't have a picture, at least yet here. So we've got one of those. So my SA unit there. Okay, so in a paratrooper unit. That's actually a pretty good paratrooper unit. We'll see if we can... well, let's put student in charge of it, because he's been put in charge of the air arm. Is he around yet? We're going to put him in charge of a real division later on, but... well, let's do this. Instead of just scrolling around. There we go. There's student. Somehow I missed him. He was up at 4. Okay. He's in charge there now. Okay, KG 158. We will... and here, yeah, there's plenty of space for him. Since we've been building air bases all over Germany. Good, there we go. Udet. Go back to... we'll give it to Kesselring. We give them fuel for money? Sure. Spanish state. You still haven't... oh, they had a partisan breakout, it looks like, up here. We give them money for rare materials. No, thank you, Switzerland. Now, how is my relations? How are my relations with them? They're not improving too much. They're not much time has gone by. So, okay, well. Carrier crew training has advanced. That's good. We will have a carrier someday because we plan on making it radar training. Though we want, okay, that, well, those only affect carriers, and we don't have those for a long time, so we'll leave that there. Oh, well, since we're doing the paratrooper activation, we'll just not add one. Establishment of the Unterseebootschule. The Unterseebootschule is established in Neustadt-Holstein. Better terrain. Okay, so we are expanding the school a little bit more here. And that should give us here. Yeah. So that fired before for us, but I think it, for me at least, I don't know if it was, I think it was in an earlier episode, but because of having to replay things. How are we doing? We're doing just fine. When you replay things, it didn't fire another time. Okay, direct unit fire. Direct fire unit combined arms. Yes, I'm muddling them all up. Okay, so we're ending that. Okay, let's start doing artillery improvements. Condors across the Atlantic. The first prototype of the FW-200V1 upgraded with extra fuel tanks and redesignated the FW-200S1 made several record flights. It was the first heavier-than aircraft to fly nonstop between Berlin and New York City, making the flight from Berlin Stockton to Floyd Bennett Field 10th and 11th August 1938 in 24 hours and 56 minutes. And yes, the flights did take that long. Flying wasn't as easy as it is today, as of course it is, but I don't know if you've watched some old movies. They used to have beds on airplanes, sort of like they did trains, you know, sleeping compartments. Because if you were going to fly from, say, well, New York's here, to somewhere in Los Angeles, it'd take a long time. And for the most part, most of the aircraft weren't, you know, doing things in one shot. So they would land, refuel. I don't know if, you know, well, do, you know, maintenance checks, you know, check around, you know, see that everything's fine, refuel and whatnot, and then take off again. And sometimes they may, you know, let the passengers, if they want, off for a little while. So it could take an hour or more for, you know, a stop. And so, you know, if you have 4 stops that take an hour plus the much slower flight speeds or whatever, it takes quite a while to get across there. And some of them they would specifically try to run at night just so that you would, you know, do that kind of stuff. So they were doing all that kind of thing. So this is the first potential. Obviously these flights aren't necessarily commercial here yet. That's with that's a Lufthansa badge from the period, but it does increase our aero engine research and large fuel tank research, and we lose descent that we are achieving record flights for Germany. Okay, which is nice. Okay, armored support. Our first armored support one is done. They will be improved over time. We're going to get Von Kleist's group. So now Von Kleist has a much better fighting command potential. Not saying it's perfect or wonderful, but it's much better. Okay, this year's STG, Shipbuilding Technical Society, research, okay, shaft, port construction, right? From Working Group for Marine Technology under the NSBDT. NSBD is National Socialist, I forget. DT is, I think, the sub-element of it there. The Oberfeldschabler, sorry, der Kriegsmarine Gross Admiral Eric Reeder is the patron of the working group. The company receives an invitation to participate in the International Conference for Naval Architects and Marine Engineers in London. Professor Sandel takes over the task of writing a German contribution. So there's Raider. There's Raider at one of the organization's headquarters, looking at models of ships or something. There's the year sort of banquet. You can see that, especially this year, though I think we may have used that symbol before, like it's for 1935. They very much are looking on sort of Viking symbology for their ships, which I think is curious, interesting, whatever. We can decide not to do it, or we can give them some supplies, a little bit of money, and get a teeny little gains across everywhere else. But it was also basing they were talking about, so I give some basing and seaport capabilities gain. So, yay. And yeah, you go right into the Kriegsmarine. Now, okay, so these have gotten a lot cheaper already. And because we have now moved into a lot of these, we want to build some other things. But partly we do want to, let's go with 2 of these and 2 of these. So that will, these will obviously come after we get these, and these are such small practicals gain. Maybe all they'll do, depending on it, is keep the practicals from falling down, but keep that up, which that will be good. We've got some fighters coming in, as you can see, as well as some naval bombers. We've got 1 armored division there, and the support. Well, I get more off from those aircraft soon, so let's do that. Oh, not 4. 13 versus 27 and 288 days versus 360, so basically a full year, obviously 5 days short. But and these transports down, oh wait a minute, that I didn't realize that okay, so I built some of these in the past to get the practicals down, but look at this, 3, so it's virtually the same as a bomber. 13 versus 13, but 183 days versus 288 days. Basically 100 days less at that same IC level. We're going to build some assault gliders. That looks good. I know it's 40 ICs, but I think it's worth it. So I want to build some heavy transport planes, and I want to get the practicals up for that. Notice I moved twin engine airplanes way down to the bottom, so this way, if I attach them to escort some of these other units, I don't want them up top, so I can easily spot them. What the other units are. So we're going to do that. And we can still use these assault gliders. Are very short range and very slow, but they have their uses, so they will still be useful, and they will virtually make the same amount of practical gains as building bombers, and be, I think, more useful than bombers. You know, heavy bombers for me and the way I like to play. Part of that is just the way I like to play. And let's see, we have yeah, these are cheaper and get more, so we will, yeah, also do 3 of those. We'll get these guys up and going. Oh, and revolverheld, we could do a better German glider unit name too, if you're watching. Okay, so that'll take a lot of money, or a lot of resources. Let's move all of these guys down. We really don't want to be building too much of that now. Let's see how that comes out. And we're still just in August 38. Okay, we are out of spies, so, and we've just, yes, good, hit bottom with that. So that will change. Okay, well, yes, okay, well, let's do this. Artillery, anti-tank, recon cavalry, engineers, horse transport, headquarters. Just some standardized infantry divisions, and I doing these specifically not to use any fuel. So let's do 4 of these. 4, no, that's 3. See if I knew how to count. Okay, there we go. That will help go through with all of that. With the Admiral Hipper there soon. Oh, and we were wanting to look at more spies. So, well, we want to lock this number down. Let's go here and here and increase spies just a bit here. We'll have plenty of diplomatic, and we can always shift over. Okay, now that we've got the Sudetenlands, we get to examine the Czech forts, and this is, I thought was interesting. Well, this picture of this guy with this sort of semi-Hitler-like mustache, and he's a general. I don't know who he is right offhand, but you can see that from his ranks, and holding his up there. He's a general giving some lectures. Don't know that all of these, well, some of these guys, like that's a photographer maybe, I don't know. Looks like he has a camera in his hand. Bunch of officers. So they've shot up a Czech bunker. And these bunkers are built along some of the same designs, by some of the same designers at least, as the Maginot Lines. So they're like, how hard is it to, you know, destroy one of these things? And that kind of stuff. So Germany spends some time examining some of these and testing some of these Czech bunkers. So that helps us with assault weapons a little bit, which is, if you don't know which one, it's this assault weapons as opposed to these assault rifles. So we get a little bonus there from examining bunkers and how they work. Okay, send a delegation of 30 HJ and Young Volk members from across Germany to visit Japan to improve relations. The delegation was led by Jungbannführer Rolf Redeker. As you can see here, this was one of the badges the Japanese sort of gave them. You see he's wearing, at least temporarily, on his HJ uniform. Not an official badge that you could normally wear, but I don't know. And you see they're sort of some of these guys that are back in here, but like that guy there, that guy there, that guy there, that guy there, and that guy there are HJ leaders intermixed with Japanese, looks like military officers to me, and you see them parading. So it's a big sort of parade. Our public relations thingy goes to Japan, check stuff out, so we'll send them. Cost us some money shipping them over to Japan and back, but improve relations. And another one of these, which yeah, come on. Don't know where I'm going to use yet, so we'll just stack here. And we would like money. Yes, because I'm slowly trying to improve relations in little bits like that. Ah, Bulgaria. Okay. No. Okay. We've got I don't really want to be building. Well, the Prince Eugen wouldn't be bad, maybe, but I sort of want to wait a little bit. We've got. Oh, that's the. Okay, since we got the Hipper done, we'll do the Prince Eugen. But what else to build? And obviously, I got lots of things in mind to build. We're going to build some coastal submarines. These, of course, are great long-range submarine. You know, well, they're long-range submarines. You can make them great by doing the text. But they're great for, you know, raiding the American coast if you don't have bases nearby or things like that. These guys can sort of get across the Atlantic if you can, you know, base them out of France or whatever, but that's about sort of it. Now, if you can base things out of Vichy ports or something like that, you can get them into other places maybe that you could only get by long range. Now, coastal submarines. I don't think some of the, you know, again, the stats, you can see which model version of these things. But I think the way some of the stuff is, I don't know if they're helped by as many of the stats as these guys. I think these guys may be a bit more visible. And of course, all of these are all fluctuatable to some degree when I say that. You know, a bunch of these different things here, including like snorkels. You can see here. Well, the sub visibility is negative 0.3, where the coastal sub negative, because you want the smallest visibility, is you know, 0.15, half as much. So like I say, they're not necessarily as good as some of the other ones, but then where are you starting out? The point is, how visible are the different things, you know, the different types of subs. And so I'm not the best guy for the math here to figure all of the stats out. Somebody else can for you if you want. Oh, we can start doing propulsion now too. But just sort of keep that in mind. They may not be the best combat units, but they are useful. One, they're almost currently, again, these fluctuate. Oh, no, well, let's go down to 1. They're just about 4 ICs to build for 194 days, where these guys are also just about, but 256 or 59 days. So it's not always just about the straight ICs. It's, you know, much shorter time to build and a little cheaper. So we want to build these guys. We're going to build 3 of them. And you can see the different costs getting the practicals. Yes, the bigger they are, the more practicals you get down from this stuff. But it'll help reduce the practicals. And they are quite useful. If you're controlling the French coast, they can operate out here. But also, as you see, I like to sneak them into the Mediterranean before the war starts and operate them secretly out of Italian naval bases. And you will go into the Kriegsmarine, sort of the main flotilla. Germany, of course, used these vessels, and that's sort of why they're separated out so that the AI can use them this way, as commerce raiders. But, you know, just how good they're going to, you know, they'll be fine commerce raiders. The question is how long will they last before being destroyed? And how much you just want escorts for other things, because the Kriegsmarine, well, let's see, let's do it right now. We're getting rid of all of these guys. These, and I recommend highly to do just what I did. These guys are super slow. These seaplane tenders. That's more. That looks like a Liberty ship to me. The German seaplane tenders actually could sort of land and take off. Well, could take off, not land, but take off seaplanes from them. And they're good sort of anti-submarine type units, so they will be good in operating, you know, close in here. But they are really slow. And these guys use torpedo boat flotillas, which I am making some, so they are useful. But their biggest problem is that they're short ranged. So if you say want to escort units up to here or some other place, you know, to Narvik or whatever. Talking to Django about that. No, we want to click here. You no longer have Narvik as a victory point up here anymore. So all you need to do to defeat Norway is to take the Oslo and Bergen here, and you win Norway. You don't have to take up here. What is up here, if this is controlled by the Allies, and you have the Swedish steel thing, you temporarily, while it's controlled by the Allies, you lose the Swedish steel effect. You'll get it back once you take it back, but it would be a temporary downturn. Okay. Chancellor Adolf Hitler, along with General von Brauchitsch, I believe that's Brauchitsch in profile there, has ended a 2-day visit to the autumn maneuvers of the 2nd Army Corps in Grossborn, Pomerania. So we gained some officers, improved training, and some improved stats there. Okay. No. The leader of the kingdom without a king, who is an admiral without a navy. I just find that very sort of. He keeps being Admiral Horthy, and although I have seen him in an army uniform in Black Ice, I think, or not Black Ice. Hearts of Iron 4 portrays him in a colored photograph of him in an army uniform, which I find sort of funny. And yep, I did find the original that they took it from. So he did wear an army uniform at least once to be painted or something. And then, of course, they have Francisco Franco color portrait while he's wearing a naval uniform. And I guess I found the unit, and it's colorful blue and red. Sort of this is what happens when you let graphic artists do control things. You know, they found it cool, and he's actually older. You know, it's post-war, and he's painted, you know, in a color painting in his the official naval uniform that he would wear when like reviewing the fleet. But something he, you know, does like once or twice a year for when he's going to visit the fleet or something, wear a naval uniform. And Hothy once or twice a year, though I've seen him most often in his naval uniform, as opposed to wearing, I don't know, just civilian business suits. Most of the time he's wearing his naval uniform for Hungary. That to me, and of course, adding on the idea is it's the Kingdom of Hungary. There ain't no king. He's, you know, living in Paris. So I just find that a bit funny there. But he comes up to visit with Hitler, and this is taken in Kiel. Visiting the German fleet. I believe it's Kiel. Could be Wilhelmshaven, but I think it's Kiel. Yeah, Kiel. There we are. Now, when I checked, I made this event. When I checked this stuff out. I'm just not going. I'm thinking. Now, of course, it could be based off of Wikipedia or something, and I could be wrong. You know, but I do research those things as opposed to just when I'm commenting here. That's sort of the the distinction, the difference. Here I am commenting. Those there, I'm doing research and putting it out. Okay, infantry unit command and control. Okay, oh, we're doing up artillery. Are we big negative? No, good. Well, we're going to take this opportunity to end this episode. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank everyone for liking the videos. It does help. If you would, please. And, of course, just post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. Talk about anything. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.